Get to know all your favorite VRChat DJs all in one place. This is VRCDJ Live.
You know, there's moments of my time in this program and in this virtual space that everything tends to happen every week. And even it's not just a weekly thing, but it almost happens to be like an every other day thing that happens, not even just on the show, but within our virtual dance rave scene. And wouldn't you believe it, putting out the fires is even more exciting and more entertaining for me, because there's a lot of people that are invested in the product that we have on the show. So welcome on in. Glad to have you here. And welcome to VRC DJ Live. I'm Rob Roman, your host. Again, a live show where not only do we get to sit here and talk to your favorite people and your favorite DJs, but we also talk to everybody in the club scene, from world creators, world owners, dancers, and lighting, and of course the DJs too, as I've said before. It's kind of an engaging time for you to ask the questions so that way we can better understand our scene in here and the people that run the scene in here, and of course the people that enjoy the scene in here too. Obviously they're in here for a reason, of course. So glad to have you here on the program. And again, we have a very wonderful guest with us today, being not only an event organizer, world creator, and DJ in VRChat, performing UKG and dubstep. Actually, I can't wait to get into that a little bit, because there's only a handful of DJs in here that I know that do that sort of stuff and enjoy it. See, that's the fun thing. Audio aficionado, and now we can now say that you are a featured DJ of Shelter since this past weekend. So please welcome to VRC DJ Live, CrunchyJoints.
Hi.
Glad to have you here on the program. And again, too, like, you know, I don't want to even say it like as if it is kind of a rite of passage to be able to perform at Shelter. But tell us a little bit about how that kind of happened and what that kind of means to you in our space.
Yeah, so DJing at Shelter was, I sent 2TD a mix like a year ago. I think it was like 6 days off of a year before I heard back. And I didn't expect anything. I just got encouraged by some friends to send a mix over, because, you know, why not? So I did. And then I'm getting out of work, getting into my car, open up my phone, and then boom! Do you have we have a slot open on this day? And I was like, yes, of course. Of course I want to do that. And it just kind of took me completely by surprise. I never really expect anything, so having such a wonderful little surprise like that really brightened my day. And so I got to prepping for the set, and oh god, the set itself was honestly, the whole event was an incredible experience. Both the other DJs did absolutely incredible, and I'm really just happy I got to play. I crashed right as my set started, but after that it was fine.
Oh no.
Yeah, it was just like my sound card, my fucking mixer like broke for a second there, and when I went to turn it off and turn it back on, it just crashed Steam VR. So, but yeah, that whole set was incredible. The event was incredible. All the other DJs were great, and it was just a really special experience to be able to, you know, perform there. It's an incredible venue with incredible music, and it's very obviously one of the most popular events in the scene, and it was just a real honor.
You know, when I said it's kind of like a rite of passage, obviously Shelter definitely has a tutelage, I guess it's a term, I guess. They have the people in their group that it's a vast amount of people. I think the last time I checked, they were well over 17,000 people within the Shelter group in VRChat. So stand alone, and you got a lot of people that are not only invested in the program, the things that they've got going on, but the DJs that have followed up with it. But you can't also help but think that, Shelter does do a good job at not only picking talent, but finding upcoming talent and people that know can provide a really good product for their event spaces. So, and again, too, like, and we're going to continue to talk a little bit about, obviously it's not the Shelter show, but at the same time, too,
Right.
like, we were even talking a lot about how recently DJing has kind of picked up for you in here, even comparable to how you even started it. So being able to be in here for such a short amount of time and be able to hit that kind of a milestone, what does that mean for you, even for the future?
It's really mind-blowing how fast everything went from when I started to just like, I just played a little pop-up at Catharsis. I found the photo of when my first pop-up was, and it was in November of 2023. I had gone into VR a little earlier, but from, the end of 2023 to like the beginning of 2025, how things have just time moves so fast in VR. I feel like everyone's very familiar with that, and I really felt that. I've really felt that over the past like year and a half.
I know we're going to kind of get into it a little bit in the program. Obviously, there's lots to talk about and a lot of juicy bits. Yeah, I wish I could just call you Juicy Bits and not CrunchyJoints, because you do have a collection of juicy bits that, like, that make up you and the way that you do your DJing and stuff. But I mean, obviously, getting into a lot of that is super important, but it kind of made me lost my train of thought. You did a little laugh, and it kind of caught me off guard there. So I have to recollect
Sorry
myself.
about that.
It happens. It's a little bit later of a show, but of course, this is VRCDJLIVE, and this is a live program. So we welcome everybody in chat, and of course, seeing that we have CrunchyJoints here, part of the program, you're more than ask them anything that you choose. But within the 2 hours of a program, we always like to ask a lot about DJing and understanding DJing and even understanding what Crunchy loves to do outside of DJing, which, again, we're going to dive into really quickly. But before we get to kind of all of the juicy bits, I'm not saying I'm calling you Juicy Bits from now on, but
Yeah, I don't know about that.
I'd be like, why are you calling them Juicy Bits? I don't, because I don't know, they got a lot going on. I kind of want to give you an opportunity to kind of showcase yourself, and I want you to be able to kind of tell us a little bit about yourself and how you just carry on yourself.
Yeah, in terms of IRL stuff, I'm 23. I have an obsession with audio and hi-fi speakers, and usually most of my disposable income goes to buying random shit I find on Facebook Marketplace and making it work. I mean, I work at Starbucks, but outside of VRChat, I'm pretty chill. I just kind of play video games most of the time and party when I have the chance.
Speaking about a lot of the different things that you have going on in your regular life, even compared to the video games that you really enjoyed to play, I mean, we can always just start this conversation of what type of video games are you kind of into currently?
Oh man. Okay, I've been playing a lot of survival crafting games recently with, I have two that I'm playing with my best friend, it goes by Pebble, who unfortunately doesn't play VR, but we spend a lot of time together in Discord calls. So we've been playing Valheim and Grounded recently, and I've also been plugging away at Vintage Story and just playing that on my own time. But those are the three main big games I've been playing.
That's fun to have a lot of time. It's fun to be able to do stuff outside of the DJing too, because I know there are a lot of people that come into the scene and they're just so infatuated with what we got going on in here that occasionally we have to just say, listen, take some time, go play some games. You can always come back. The scene won't be going anywhere too fast, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But again, there's a lot of people that are interested in our scene that want to develop more of a limelight or a celebrity status or popularity, I guess, if you will. I mean, I don't want to think that most DJs in here kind of have a popularity bone in them, but at the same time, too, I mean, I don't know. Once you taste something sweet, you just want more, I suppose.
Yeah, I have this attitude towards popularity and all that stuff where I don't really care if people really love what I do. Awesome, the more the merrier. But I'm honestly sometimes more happy playing for just 4 or 5 of my close friends than, playing for a giant instance. So both can be equally fulfilling in my eyes. So, if I become popular, it's a side effect.
I know a little bit later we're going to break down kind of how you even got in here and started kind of looking at VRChat and all the different things, because obviously you would have had to find VRChat in here at some point in time, but even the DJ aspect of it and being, more involved in this type of music that you perform, as well as because I think there's a lot of people that watch this program and they're constantly asking, how do you get into VR DJing? I think a lot of people just, go into their search engines. I don't want to say Google, but people go into Google and they search VR DJ or how to be a VR DJ. And I think we kind of missed the point on all of that. It's not even the matter of we're not looking for that sort of thing, but obviously we want to get some people in here and we want to get them prepared and we want to get them ready for all the different things that we've got in here. So obviously lots of things to talk about with that. It's going to be a really fun cross up with that. But again, with the video games, how did you even think about coming into VR in the first place?
So I was living in Tennessee at the time, and I just saw all this content on my YouTube about VR games and VRChat a little bit. And so I saved up my tip money and a couple of birthday gifts and went to Target and bought myself a Quest 2. I handed them a $100 bill and the rest was ones, and I feel really, really bad about that. I feel really bad for the poor Target employee who said to me, well, we were low on ones anyway, so...
I mean, you could have had pennies too. I mean, I would say you're a little young to have a jar of pennies, but at the same time, I don't know too many people to be walking into a bank saying, I need give me all of your pennies.
You give me all of your pennies. Yeah, it was, and then I took it home. I got like Beat Saber and a couple other games just on standalone because I hadn't built my computer yet, and I just fell in love with being in VR and experiencing these things in a virtual space that you can never experience IRL. And from there, I decided I didn't really want to do VRChat on standalone. I felt it was too limiting for me and and the things I wanted to do and how I wanted to express myself. So I just waited until I built my computer, and then I kind of took the dive into VRChat and started meeting people, meeting like these groups and socializing a bit more, and it started to help me come out of my shell.
Was the VR purchase kind of based on the pandemic at the time, or because I know you were saying how you came in around 2022?
Yes, so I bought my headset in 2021, late 2021, and honestly, I wasn't really influenced by the pandemic because I was working 20 hours a week. For context, I was a pre-professional ballet dancer for 4 years, and this was during my last year of that. And so I was still dancing 40 hours a week. I was working 20 hours a week. I got out. I bought my own groceries. I never really, I didn't have time to stay inside. So it just happened to line up during that time when everyone else seemed to be coming in because of all those things. But yeah, it didn't really contribute for me.
I know one of the mighty arguments. I mean, it's a little fairly new. We're starting to get to know a little bit more of a context of where the headset game is going in this year. We've been hearing words that Index 2 is coming out. There will be some other variations of an HTC Vive that you can get. Obviously, people are kind of feeding into the Quest Pro just because of applications with the eye tracking and the mouth tracking and that sort of stuff. So being able to understand how all of those technologies feed into not only our economy and the way that we DJ in here, but we're also kind of keeping a keen eye on some of the people that are buying some of those things, because again, I mean, the Quest 2 at the time, still fairly cheap. You can still get it compared to a much stronger headset with a big old computer. But I know earlier on in the show, and it's a little too early in the program to be talking about Dylan Francis, but we were talking about Dylan Francis. He just recently posted something on Instagram with a Quest 3 on his face, trying to figure out if it's going to be the next big thing for DJs in 2069. So I'm just like, bro. But at the same time, I mean, but again, the Quest 3 is such a really good headset to even own, even comparable to the Quest 2. You get the link cable and you're ready to rock and roll.
Yeah, absolutely. The Quest 2 was absolutely the perfect starting point for me, I think. It was cheap, it was accessible, and it was really the easiest thing to work with for someone who had no knowledge of even really computers as much of the time. I mean, I had a laptop, but I didn't know a lot about computers. I wasn't super tech savvy. But then I got more into it. I started teaching myself things. I started learning things, and I decided, okay, I want something more. And then I upgraded to, I got an Index because I wanted base stations, so that I could use Vibe trackers. And over time, I get my trackers and I move on, and eventually I landed on my big screen Beyond, my child, and I love this headset. So I think the Quest, both the Quest 3 and the Quest 2, incredible like gateways into VR. And honestly, you don't actually need anything more than that. You don't need anything more than a Quest 3 these days.
Even with the new headset technology, I mean, back in the day in VRChat, we used to just be like, oh, Questies, oh, PC players, oh, people that were just on desktop. But nowadays, I don't know. I mean, there's tons of headsets now, so it doesn't even matter. And I feel like the same thing goes with the DJ console and understanding like what you play on and what kind of software you use, what hardware that you use, which again, we'll get into a little bit more once we dive, more into it. Obviously, been seeing a lot of questions in the chat, so we'll get to those in a minute. But I kind of wanted to kind of further on this discussion, because again, you were saying that you were starting off with Beat Saber. I feel like everybody kind of does that because either through videos or memes or whatever, you want to get into it and be like, whoa, virtual reality is really wild, but at the same time too, you can't deny that VRChat is also moving up in like the top 5 ranks of VR applications. So was it a matter of like checking out videos? Obviously you're an audio aficionado, you love doing audio stuff, so I would assume that at some point in time the DJing played in, or was DJing kind of the first start of you understanding that was kind of something we were already doing in here?
Yeah, I didn't discover VRChat like DJ events. I think I watched the PBS documentary when that came out originally, and so that was all I knew about the DJ scene in here. Most of what I consumed for VRChat content was interviews from specifically Azil. Hi, Azzy, if you see this, I love you, girl. But I really loved that VRChat has this power to connect people across the globe in one way or another, regardless of how you do it. We have people from all walks of life, all across the globe, who are all interacting with each other in this virtual space. And that's what really drew me to VRChat, was I can meet and hang out with anyone, and it doesn't matter.
So when you were coming into VR, I mean, obviously, for me to understand and break down just that factoid is just that back in 2018, when I started in 2018, 2019, there was this huge wave of like content creators, influencers. And while that wasn't immediately the thing to do in VRChat, the DJ scene didn't really start popping up until 2020, give or take. I mean, maybe a couple of years before that, but people were still trying to understand what they were doing. So as the timeline kind of progresses and we start to see more people come into the scene, especially because of the PBS special, especially because of the boom of 2022, I want to kind of be able to break that down, because I mean, it's not that I wasn't paying any attention to any YouTube content or anything like that while I was in here doing whatever I was doing in here a couple of years ago. But at the same time too, like I'm always very interested over the type of media that we're seeing online that is being replicated of VR. And again, the PBS special definitely winning the hearts all over the place. You got Shelter, you got Rizumu, you got the Kaleidosky, Rue, Electro, Aliquim, 2D. But also, too, there were a handful of other DJs that were a part of the scene that have already been making music outside of VR that just kind of want to come in here for skits and bits, skits and giggles, I guess. It's for Skittles, I guess. So I kind of want to know. I want to know what interested you besides the fact that it was in VR? Was it because of the DJ scene? Was it because you wanted to just try it and then you started to learn about the DJ scene?
Yeah, I really the first few like months of my time in VR, I spent mostly just connecting with like individual people that I would like meet through Discord servers. And you know, I did the whole e-dating thing for a while, and that was kind of all I used VRChat for until one of the people I was with at the time dragged me along to Boat of all places, and that was the first time I got really exposed to it. And I was just like, I want to go to this every week now. Not because it's Boat, but because music in VR. And I just always loved music. So I was like, holy crap, there's a whole space for this. I need to know more. I need to go to more events. And it just started to snowball from there. And eventually, I met the good old Wake, who is in chat right now. Hi, Wake. And Wake is one of the co-founders of Googie Records, and we learned that we live quite close to each other, so we hung out IRL a couple times, and Wake showed me how they DJ. And I was like, well, I'm interested. Might as well give it a shot.
So when it came down to understanding the DJ, did I feel like a lot of VRChat DJs, what they will do in here is like, if you can't afford to have a console, there's always a VR DJ that has the introductory console and then something a little bit better. And because they're not using the intro console, just sitting in the closet, they'll just be like, well, let me just ship it to you. Was that kind of the case, or did you just kind of say, I'm going to get something?
Wake pointed me towards the controller that they use. It was a Newmark Mixtrack Pro, and you can still kind of get them for like $40 on eBay. And I picked it up. It's old, but it works with Virtual DJ, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna get something cheap so that if I don't like this, if I don't feel like doing this, I haven't wasted much money. You know, I didn't really want to dive in. I didn't even want to spend like $200, and I figured out I loved it.
So is that something that you're kind of still working on now, or have you advanced?
Oh, I've definitely advanced. I went from the Newmark Mixtrack Pro up to a DDJ Rev 1, which got me I really love that battle style layout with the paddles for the effects. And I was like, okay, what do I do next? And I was looking at a Rev 7, and then I had a friend, TV Head, who uses timecode with turntables. And I was like, I kind of think I want to do that. So I dropped too much money and got 2 turntables and a Newmark Scratch. And that is what I'm using right now. I also picked up a Gemini MDJ 1000 that I use occasionally, but it's not always being used.
It's fun to be able to hear all the different success stories, and again, like, you know, you're getting your time in the sun, you're going out there, you're doing all sorts of gigs, people are starting to recognize you more, and again, I'm not saying that because you played Shelter, it's just like, hey, everything is going to go up and everybody's going to get your attention, you know, like, I mean, you know, baby steps first as you continue on with what you're planning on doing in your hobby and stuff like that. But being able to be even more engaged in this particular hobby, and I'll even bite the apple. I'll get into a little bit more about transitioning between hobby and professionalism, where you want to go and where you're headed. But just learning about consoles alone is super important. It's a very important first step for anybody that's interested in coming in here. I think a lot of people, when they come in here and they see the DJs, they automatically get a little intimidated by their friends, a little bit of peer pressure to be like, well, if, you know, CrunchyJoints is doing that, maybe I can do it. Maybe I can afford, you know, a smaller console, or even back in the day, it was the DDJ 400. You know, that was kind of the console to get for $400, which gave you all the bells and whistles for $400, but that's still $400. So it's a matter of being able to do something like that. And now that you kind of have a little bit of knowledge, and we'll talk a little bit about the term turntablism too, because I have been noticing, don't think that I haven't been, people have been coming into in VR to DJ on turntables as well. So it's not even like, you know, that's not, I mean, I'm not saying that like like you're the only one. I've been seeing some other people doing some scratch stuff and being able to do turntables in here. But that question is equally important in our scene as well, because I have seen too far many people on Twitch alone trying to learn how to scratch because they watched a YouTube video on how to scratch, thinking they're automatically going to scratch. And you've already spent a good majority. I mean, again, turntables aren't cheap. Direct line turntables are not cheap to even begin with, let alone to have the the professional mixer to go with that. So what was the reason for your turntables? Did you want to just learn to scratch, or was it just aesthetic?
So learning to scratch is absolutely a motivation, but I'm nowhere near confident enough in it yet to really do anything with it, especially during a live performance. I'm still very much learning, and it's been a tough learning curve for me specifically. I don't know why. It just doesn't stick in my brain. But mostly it's the extremely tactile nature of DJing on turntables. You have this physical object that is spinning, and it's not small. And you're manipulating the speed of that object in order to beat match or speed up a song or scroll through your track. And it was that whole process of really making it more physically involved that drew me to it over something like a digital mixer.
And then basically all the audio that follows up with it too. Like I would think that you were just sitting on your bedroom floor with the whole like how to do instruction manual that folds out a bajillion times just to read all the mechanics of it to make sure that everything was kind of good. But even more so with the console wars, obviously there's lots of different consoles out there for many different things. I would love to open up the box a little bit and say, you know, from the things that you've got to experience between hardware and software, even comparable to what you started with, where you're at now, and what kind of advice you'd bring to a lot of people that are wanting to begin in the scene, and just give us a little bit of a flavor of all the different things that you got to experience, touch, learn how to do, comparable to the market now and the different types of consoles that are out there now.
Yeah, so I've had my hands on a bunch of different controllers. I've visited a bunch of people who have a bunch of different hardware. I mean, I have 3 separate setups myself. And I will say there's a lot for different people depending on your budget. And really, budget is the constraining factor. If you have infinite money, get yourself 4 CDJs and a Pioneer mixer. It's going to be the best. It's will train you to be ready to perform IRL. Perfect. If you are on a low budget, looking for something secondhand on eBay is always great. Just do your research into what it is and if it's compatible with the software you want to use. Sorry, my cat just ran across the room and scared the crap out of me. And if you're looking for something a bit more mid-level, maybe you want to upgrade. There's I think a lot of mid-level controllers aren't built quite as well as even their lower-level counterpart. There's some... I know there's been some criticism of like the FLX6, of it being kind of plasticky and it falls apart. And the DDJ Rev 5, which is like the battle style, like mid-level of like the Rev series from Pioneer, I haven't heard a lot of great things about it. And most of it just boils down to, if you have an entry-level mixer and you want to take this more seriously, save up and go for the big option. And that's the advice I would give, is don't go for a mid-level controller. You're just going to want to upgrade again and you're going to waste more money.
Again, I think another benefit of that too is, I mean, for me, I still have my, the DDJ SB3. It's kind of a oldie but goodie. I think a lot of people back in the day, you know, good, easy $250 console. Doesn't have all the bells and whistles on it, but, you know, you get a dude like James Hype, who's constantly on YouTube being like, I was rock bottom, just like you and me. You know, we were always there and we were climbing up. It's not my best James Hype impersonation.
Not
But like you
James
see that dude,
Hyde.
you see that dude like again from time to
No.
time he busts out the smaller consoles to see if he can test his battle skills on that console, and it's great to see. But at the same time, you're just like, you know, you're overanalyzing it. You're watching the videos and you're just like, how did he do it? How did he cross his hands without bumping in? How does he not hit walls and stuff? Like, how does he? So being able to do a lot of that, obviously there's some misconceptions of just being like, okay, well, why don't you just first learn how to push a button, get the song going, and then being able to crossfade from one song to the next. That's always a good option for you. But even in the case too of console wars and software wars too, you know, we talk a little bit about how you were saying that you either started with virtual DJ or you're still doing virtual DJ, even comparable to the people that are in here DJing now. I feel like, you know, I think a lot of people in here know of the industry standard and what most clubs and most hardware uses, but even more so, there's nothing wrong with virtual DJ.
Not at all. I think virtual DJs, honestly, it's perfect for me at home. I can use Rekordbox. I've used Rekordbox. I've used like XDJ XZs, which are, you know, it's like a CDJ style display, and it's all kind of based on Rekordbox, and I don't want to use it at home because I think virtual DJ is just more convenient, especially when you're in VR. So I always encourage people, start with virtual DJ. If you want to take things more seriously, absolutely go to Rekordbox.
Also, too, I mean, there's plenty of people in this scene that you can talk to and ask, you know, what do you do? There's a lot of people that ask me, and I feel like when the people that ask me at the consoles that I use, they're just like, oh, of course, Rob Roman has these consoles. And I'm just like, what does that mean? Like, well, I'm sorry if I keep practicing and I'm getting a little better, but at the same time, too, like, I don't know, I did the same amount of research that everybody else did. So all of that is super important, and as we've alluded to again too, our community is very welcoming. It's very opening. We could talk about this stuff for hours, literally, even past the 60 hours that most people think that we're awake. But see, funny jokes. But all jokes aside, though, obviously, you coming into this space in 2022 and starting to DJ in here, what kind of musical genre stylings were you running into? Was it always kind of a drum and bass world, or were you able to easily stumble into the dubstep UKG thing?
So I heard a lot of when I was hopping around events, I heard a lot of house, a lot of drum and bass, and a lot of rhythm. And I like house. Drum and bass hadn't grown on me yet, and rhythm has never really been like my vibe. I think there's a lot of really cool rhythm producers and a lot of really cool rhythm music. It's just not something I listen to on the regular. But I stumbled into UKG once again through Wake and really liked that sound, which is kind of like the house but a little faster and also not. And I just kind of branched out from there, and I was like, okay, what are these artists that I'm playing the tracks of? I want to learn more about them. I want to listen to what else they create. So I go and I listen and I discover new genres, because most artists don't just produce one thing.
When you were first coming in here, and obviously you get to, that's one of the things about being a DJ in here, is that like you want to be able to promote and present the stuff that you enjoy and DJ the stuff that you enjoy, but not everybody can be a part of it from the get-go until you start to find the people that you want to hang out with in reality too. So being able to, you know, cross your genres a little bit and get a better understanding of how you want to perform is super interesting of a concept as we continue to figure out. I don't want to say that, you know, house is doing better than drum and bass, but drum and bass is still kind of kicking, doing its own thing, which kind of leads to the question in chat a little bit earlier today was how did you land on the genres that you like to spin to begin with outside of the UKG? Like you said, you stumbled across that, something that you've enjoyed, but was it just a matter of going to see some other DJs in here that kind of landed you that idea, or was, you know, did you get influenced from other people based on the community that you were in?
I've been so influenced by all the wonderful people around me for all the different music I spin, and my general attitude is I just spin what I like. I just spin the music that I want to listen to, and I discover new music through friends. They'll send me a track or something, and I'm like, what even is this? I've never heard this before. And suddenly I have a crate of it because I just love to discover new music and love to experience it, and then I love to share that music because I would have never discovered it if someone else hadn't played a set of it or shown me a track or something like that. I spring everything nowadays from UKG and dubstep to like electro breaks, jungle and drum and bass. I am gonna be playing jazz tomorrow. I just play what I like, and if it fits the vibe of where I'm playing.
So, jazz? I mean, how are you gonna get on with that?
I'm gonna hit play, and we're gonna figure it out.
Do you have any jazz? Do you have any jazz? I'm interested now because listen, from a kid that studied at Berklee College of Music, I do a lot of jazz. So what had been interesting to you to know that you think you could spin on vinyl? What artists?
Oh, unfortunately, I don't have any jazz on vinyl or anything. I use timecode, which basically sends a signal to my computer, and that reads as like my digital tracks are spinning. I wish I had the money to spin all vinyl all the time because I would, but vinyl is really expensive. Jazz specifically has been an interest in mine for most of my life. My sister was the lead saxophonist in a freeform jazz band when she was in college. And so I got really exposed to that a lot when I was younger, and I just fell in love with it. So this event I'm doing tomorrow, I took the opportunity. It's a bit more of a laid back vibe of an event. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to play some like jazz fusion, primarily jazz fusion.
Okay. Yeah, because whenever, I don't know if it's this year, I don't know if it just was in 2024 or people were thinking like, okay, maybe dubstep, maybe drum and bass just isn't my thing. And I think a lot of people are testing a lot of the newer genres. I know recently, again, electro swing has just become such a popular thing here. It's been... it's new, it's refreshing, it's challenging, even for people to find music that works really well with it. That's why I was a little confused about the jazz, because most jazz standards don't have a click track. Not most jazz standards also are actually on time. A lot of them fluctuate their times all over the place. So understanding that's kind of important, but also knowing that even this year alone, we're still very early on in this year, but like, you got a lot of people that are testing the waters on a lot of these different genres. So here's a very interesting question that I kind of want to start getting more into is, again, you're learning about other genres from a lot of other DJs that are performing in here. How often do you go, DJ hunting and go looking for DJs? Or, we always talk about it, taking some time to just come in here and see some other DJs and supporting our local DJ scene and stuff like that. How often do you get to do that?
I like to get into VRChat to just go to music events and experience whatever's happening that night, at least 2 times a week. Usually I don't have anything particular in mind when I'm going out. I just am like, I'm just going to go find something and see if that's what I want to listen to tonight. If it's not what I'm looking for, I'll hop to another world to see what else is going on and just try and go as many places as possible. Sometimes I'll stay for one set and then, there's another event going on over here. I'm going to go catch a set over here. And I try to do that about twice a week, sometimes more, sometimes less, just depending on how, my work schedule is and all those other things. But it's really nice, and I think the best part about this whole scene isn't being a DJ, it's getting to experience all the other incredible things that people create.
One of those things that I happened to, we talked a little bit about it earlier this week, was I think the first time that I actually got to see you perform. And again, thank goodness for the timeline, because the timeline definitely is a very, very good tool for me to figure out where people are performing at. So I can just kind of go in there and see where everybody's at. But I actually got to see you perform at the Oval, and very, very interesting venue, very interesting, a very good company too, because of the fact of the amount of people in there. They're there to party. They're there to listen to the music. They're they're there to socialize, but also to experience the music that I don't think that they've heard anywhere else. And stuff like that is very unique to me because, you know, we've had a lot of moments in our scene where it's just like, let's go to the popular place because it's popular, or let's go see this guy because he's popular. Yet there's still an entire community of people that would rather listen to some new talent and listen to some new tunes and kind of get into that. And we'll talk more about the world creator part of it too, because I know that's something we're going to talk about. You know, we'll get into a little bit later. But tell us a little bit about, you know, again, you had a performance at the Oval and being able to do that, and what kind of a reception you got from the music that you got to perform.
Yeah, I mean, that event was really fun. I played like a lot of breakbeat and like electro breaks and that kind of stuff, and it was really fun. I went really hard, and people seemed to really like it. I don't play that kind of music a lot, but I felt it really fit the vibe of the map. Something a bit heavier, a bit darker, and I think it landed. I don't know. Ooh, I hit stick drift. Sorry about that. We're back.
You just lose your train of thought because you floated away.
Yes.
It's perfectly okay. Yeah, it's fine. Hey, listen, when the wind comes in, we could probably have to turn down the AC and, you know, maybe not have it on so strong.
Yeah, it's gonna carry me away.
This is VRCDJ Live. We're sitting here with CrunchyJoints, and you can definitely see them perform. Actually, this weekend, you got something cooking up that besides the jazz. Is there anybody else on that lineup too, or are you just kind of coming in here and saying, you know what, jazz?
So tomorrow we are doing a showcase of both My World and a custom-made surround sound system that's... I'll explain it separately, but it's going to be me and my friend Mint T who created the system. And Mint's going to be playing some jungle, something a bit more industrial on that end, and we're going to completely change the vibe to something more human instrumented. So we have something more electronically produced, and then something a bit more human instrumented. Oh, Mint's in chat. There we go. But that's kind of the intention. It's just the two of us, and it's just going to be a chill, laid-back way to experience music in VR in a way that you can't really right now.
You see, hearing that, it's super wild to me, just because, again, like when we first come into the scene and when we were just doing DJing here, it always tended to be one thing. And even just recently, we've been seeing a huge influx of like house and disco and throwbacks. And most of the time when I'm hearing from people that they want the throwbacks, and when I think throwbacks, I'm thinking, you know, back either the 80s or the 90s or the early aughts. And having people want that, it's just like, I can't believe them. I can't believe anybody that wants that, but they want that, you know. Same thing with disco, because I feel like it's a bygone era that they never will be able to enjoy ever again unless there's a community based around that. So let alone just the fact that those genres are getting popular again, you do have someone like yourself that are coming in and being able to give off like some really amazing genres that either people don't understand or find an actual community that can potentially point them in the right direction. Because again, I would love to see a whole community. I would love to see a whole community of jazz DJs. You know, like that would be something else. And at the same time, too, you have to do a little bit of your research. You know, it's the same thing with classical music. You have to understand a little bit of the classical music and not just be like, oh, dang, Mozart's my guy, or, you know, Beethoven's the real G. You can't just come in and say that without actually knowing a little bit about their product. But at the same time, too, like this is the space where you get to enjoy good company and learn amongst each other about how to do a thing.
Exactly. I think it's this space. The beauty of it is that it is a space for people to come and experience music, and there's no entry fee other than, you know, having something that can run VRChat, having something that can get into a PC only world. If you have that, there's no further entry fees to get into these events, and you could be playing. People could be playing anything really. It just really just depends on where you are. And like you said, I think a jazz community would be absolutely incredible. Just make a world designed to be like a jazz lounge, and do events periodically of just, hey, we're having a jazz night here, come sit around, relax, and listen to some music that you might not really be able to be exposed to in your everyday life.
I would really, whew, I would really be surprised if someone can really knock that out of the park, because I honestly, I feel like even in this time today, when you say jazz lounge, I think instantly everyone's thinking Starbucks.
No, God, no. Oh, God,
That's why,
no.
listen, I don't
Not
want
a
to have
coffee
jazz night
house.
at the, coffee house would be good. But again, when you say coffee house, that's what they're constantly thinking. I mean, there's no jazz night at a Dunkin' Donuts, but there's no jazz night at a Tim Hortons. Although that would be kind of neat. I would probably go to that. But that's what I'm saying. People would be thinking about Starbucks.
You know, I think it's up to the world creators and the event runners and the DJs to really change people's perception of this thing, because, someone might click on it thinking, oh, this maybe this is just like a Starbucks map, it's just like a normal coffee house, and you come in and suddenly they have this whole new perspective on this music and the space that it's occupied. Maybe even you really do your research on, you create the space to create something that's almost historically accurate. You can really give people whole new perspectives on music and the music culture that goes along with it just through running an event.
Let me break this down a little bit more, because I would love your opinion on this, especially because now that we're kind of talking a little bit about it, is originally, even at the beginning of this year, and obviously I can't speak amongst everybody, but everybody that I have been hearing has been talking a little bit about this. We kind of go back and forth with it as well, is just the sheer mass of the amount of people that are in our scene, and the sheer mass of people that either A, want to become DJs. We have plenty of DJs in here. We have lots of performers. We have lots of dancers. We have lots of attendees. Lots of attendees. A lot of people that love to come to the scene. And we always ask the question, do we have too much? Do we have too many? And I think a lot of people say we don't have enough. And we always need more DJs. We always need more people part of our scene. I think a lot of people want us to make a very large scene anyway, compared to the amount of people that we've already generated in the game. But understanding the concept of what we've been trying to explain here with the whole jazz club, and again, disco nights, and even UKG and dubstep and rhythm and stuff like that. Do you think that there's going to be a point where we have too many genres going on at the same time? Because I think you and I both, we look at the timeline on Fridays and Saturdays and get super overwhelmed. But if we start seeing more of a particular genre, I'm not saying that there's going to be a weird indifference with it or a weird fight with it, but when do you think it's going to be too much?
I generally am of the opinion that I don't think there's such thing as too much for us to consume. I mean, there's a lot of people, there's a lot of instances that have full queues, and those people are probably out doing other things, and it's never going to be, it's only going to be too much when we don't have enough people to go to these events, and that has not happened yet, at least from my perspective, from what I've seen. And I think that having these really dedicated sounds for events could honestly be an interesting change from a lot of events being mostly open genre. The DJ brings what they want to spin, and that's awesome. But I went to, I think the map is Studio 45. I think it was made by Juno Tanuki. Someone can correct me if I'm wrong. And I went to a disco night there, and it was incredible. The design, the whole layout, the design of the space, it was very authentic feeling, and it really made me feel like I was at a discotheque listening to disco. And I think really intentionally designing your space around the kind of music you want to make can make your event stand out. But ultimately, I don't think there's ever going to be too much. Maybe we'll reach critical mass at some point, but I don't see it happening anytime soon.
I think what is so neat about our community, and again, being able to understand the different genres, is continuing to understand how to bridge the gap between stuff that we have going on in here compared to the outside world, and kind of going a little bit back and forth with again, these silly Instagrams that I tend to run into a lot more, especially with Dylan Francis. For those people that don't know, you guys can look it up because I just saw it today. I just figured I would talk a little bit about it because I think it's kind of funny. Dylan Francis apparently owns a Quest 3. Do we know what he does with the Quest 3? We don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I would assume that if you're a DJ, you're going to want to look into some like
hours of ketamine fueled
maybe Dylan Francis is the one doing the smorgasbord of psychedelics in VRChat. I don't know, but at the same time too, like, I mean, obviously he's the one that he's wearing it. I would assume you would know about VRChat, and I kind of post a little something cheeky for him to be like, you know, we got a program in here. You know, say, hey, you want to slide in here and do some DJing and stuff like that. It's interesting, but at the same time too, like being able to understand what we're doing in here, it's got to have some significance and weight. I think that even if we're going to do jazz in here, people are going to enjoy it. That's a straight up given. You know, again, you could sit and you could look up jazz on Spotify and enjoy that, but being able to be connected to people, you could be fully immersed. You know, you could be sitting at the lounge, having your cup of coffee that you just made, and then enjoying some jazz, and you know, you could say the meme, you like jazz. You could say all of that too, but I can't help but feel like there could always be another guy in here that wants to bridge the gap with the jazz community, because we've done this before. We've done this with like rock bands. We've done this with singers, with pianists, and other musicians in here. And I'm trying to figure out how else we can connect that, and being able to be multifaceted with all these genres. I think you might be onto something. You might be, you know, and being able to explore all these different avenues, especially for people that want the complete immersion of it, besides sitting in Starbucks.
I think it would be absolutely incredible if we were able to get like a mic'd up jazz band to play a virtual show in a VRChat map somehow. I think that would be the most incredible thing ever. And like you said, that's happened. Like there have been like rock bands and stuff like that who are able to perform in VR. I think that it's really hard to set up and takes a lot of effort, but I think it's absolutely worth it when you get that final performance and so many people are able to experience something in the most authentic way they've ever been able to.
Speaking of which, when you were coming in here and learning how to DJ, obviously, again, you ran into Wake, right? That's the person.
Yep.
Wake, obviously, yes, I got to say hi, because I too have been kind of doing a couple of pop-ups at Googie Records, and very, very fun time there, and being able to understand the map creation of that, and understanding all of that. Let's break down really quick for the people that are interested in getting into VR DJing, or maybe people that are in VR right now that want to learn about the different clubs and the different worlds and the different things to get a hold of. Let's break down how you ended up reaching out to all these groups and clubs, and what has the process been for you to trying to find time slots? Because I feel like outside of getting time slots or understanding how to get time slots, people are just going to say, forget this, I'm going to do a pop-up and see how it goes.
That's completely fair. For me, when I first started out, I would go to events, meet the people who are running it, and say, hey, I'm a DJ. Do you guys do time slots? And oftentimes it's the hardest part. Do you guys have time slots posted somewhere? How do you do bookings? And 99% of people will just tell you how they do things. And you can get a lot of information from that. Some places have Discord servers where they give you the DJ role and they post time slots and you can grab one. Googie does that a lot for some of our events. And other places are like, yeah, well, tell me what you play and I'll get back to you if we have an event that really suits that. It's ultimately, you just got to connect with people, talk to the people, and go up to someone and say, hey, do you know who hosts these? Talk to them and just be respectful, be kind, and be enthusiastic about your love for music, and that will carry you, I think. I mean, it carried me.
I'd also say go in and see your favorite DJs too. Talk around, get to know those people as well. You know, we think we kind of forget about that part too. It's just like, well, you know, let's just say you do want to perform at Shelter. I would assume that A, you've been to Shelter, and B, you knew a couple of people that you met at Shelter.
Yeah, it always helps to have people who are already in the community that you're wanting to become more of a part of. But I would emphasize that if you're wanting to DJ, don't make your end goal DJing. Go and just enjoy the vibe. And if an opportunity presents itself and you've made a connection, take it. But I've met some people who it seems like all they're interested in is just getting that performance slot, and they don't seem super invested in what's going on. And the more invested you are in what's going on, the more people are going to just straight up enjoy being around you.
You find that happening a lot more? Because I know recently, I know for me at least, I used to have a bunch of people that I used to just go hopping around worlds with and just kind of having a fun little time. But because there's so much going on in the scene, it just always seems like about 95% of the time that we are in here performing or not even performing. Let's just say we want to hang out with some friends. Those friends are also going to sets as well.
Yeah, I think it can be difficult sometimes if you're trying to balance the more social aspects as well as DJing sets 2-3 times a week, however many times, and if you're only getting into VR like me, like 3 maybe 4 days a week at max, it's it can be hard to balance that time, and I think that really just comes down to each person and how much time they wanted to devote to each thing. And for me, I'll usually have a friend of mine just say, "Hey, there's this event going on. Do you want to go?" And that's enough reason for me to put the headset on that day. And it really just does help to meet people, talk with people, make friends. And it can be hard to make friends, absolutely, but it helps to have people who will drag you to things, because I always feel that going to an event with company is far superior than doing it alone.
It's always nice to be able to get to know the people in our community, and obviously too, whenever we do a lot of these events too, I think the modern stylings of being able to talk to people and building friendships pretty much just stems basically around the music. And I feel like most of the time anyway, that most of the friendships that we make are from the instances that we're constantly a part of. Like, let's just say you are going to go and watch Refuge. They have a massive following over there, that you'll probably run into maybe 2 or 3 people there all the time. That you'll be able to remember the name and be like, oh yeah, I remember seeing you here from time to time, and kind of engaging with that. And that's something we got to keep bringing up too here as well. It's not even just a matter of I want to be a DJ, but it's a matter of getting to know our community and getting to know the people that you get to hang out with all the time. And hopes to either, find those time slots or even get to know the community a lot better. Speaking of which, for those people that are interested in becoming DJs in here, what is something that you've learned in your travels so far that you wish that you knew at the beginning, that where you are now?
Oh man, I, you know, that's a hard question for me because I gotta think on that one. That's a hard one. I think it just boils down to don't worry so much. We're all just here to have a good time. If I could go back and tell myself before my first set, I would say, don't worry about it so much. Enjoy yourself. Enjoy sharing music. Do you fuck up a transition? Oh well, the music's still good. People don't remember that. They enjoy the vibe that you set. Focusing on just having a good time and sharing the music you love is honestly the best advice I could give to anyone.
And that's super helpful to know as well too, because again, as we've been saying before, the scene's picking up, and obviously too, I don't want to be the one that says, "Ooh, summertime." A lot of people are going to have time off from school. Everyone's going to have time off from college. Let alone the kids at the apartment complex I'm at. They're at the pool all the time, and you don't want to go there on Saturdays. It's just flooded with kids. Let them kind of do their thing. But we are at a point now where we're going to be getting a lot more people, and with the Oculus still kind of inexpensive, people are going to learn about the things that we do in here, and have them come in and kind of test our will what we do in here, and then we're going to have to come back and be like, all right, something club etiquette, you have to learn how to do. You can't just be a jerk running around and being a jerk. But that's kind of just it, is we have to keep figuring out what we're doing and enjoying your time. Enjoying the time that we're in here. Enjoy the things that we've got going on here. Of course, VRCDJ Live. Glad to have everybody here in chats. We got about a whole hour left of talk with CrunchyJoints, and this is the time, man, because we always talk a lot about the fact that the DJs are performing in here, and honestly, that once they're done performing, we take our headsets off, we go take a poop, we go get some water, we get a snack, we lay down. We'll legit take 15 to kind of do that. Do you have a regiment of what you do after you're done performing?
Sit down. That's usually the big one. That's I finish DJing and my back is sore, my legs hurt, my feet hurt because I'm like barefoot on hardwood, and I'm just like, okay, I'm gonna go sit down for the next 30 minutes.
You think that's
just
not a process of you getting old?
23, bro. I don't think that's what that is.
Listen, you got a mid-20-year-old people, and they're just like, oh no, 5 more years, and I'm crumbling. Like, oh man.
I put my body through a lot when I was younger. I mean, I started dancing at 5 years old, and I did that for 16 years. For a stretch of that, I was doing it 40 hours a week, every week. And my last year, I started working part-time too. And so I put my body through a lot, and so I just hurt all over most of the time. And that's just what that's about. So usually I just need some time to recover. And then, after I'm feeling up for it again, I'll be like, all right, I'm going to go take my heads off, get some water, get a snack. Usually I eat like a little beef stick or something, some fruit snacks, just a little something to refuel myself, protein and sugar. And then I'll come back and just go back to dancing and vibing for the rest of the event, usually.
We keep forgetting a lot about that in this scene, because I know that's one of the gripes that I have in here recently. I think a lot of DJs have gripes, but at the same time too, they're not very vocal about how they want to approach it because they don't want to like offend anybody. But one of the gripes just happens to be that once you're done, the party's literally over, and then they leave, and they don't check on their DJs to make sure that their DJs are good. Being like, a nice thank you, nice, I had a great time, your music selection was awesome, you're awesome, you look great today, you deserve a rest. Stuff like that would really help out for a lot of the DJs in here. But at the same time too, I mean, you're gonna go ahead and just be like, oh, I'm gonna go do this anyway, so off we go. But I would assume that I can't assume anything, but your name is CrunchyJoints, and not even the fact that you need to take a sit after you're done DJing. What's the origin behind CrunchyJoints?
So the origin behind CrunchyJoints goes back to, I danced for fucking years and years, and I just my joints pop all the time. My elbows pop. I just pop my elbow. My wrists, my fingers, my neck, my back, my knees, my ankles, everything just goes snip, snap, crunch. And I was like, I had a username a long time ago, and I didn't really like it anymore. It was kind of impronounceable, and I was like, what can I do? And so I was sitting in a call with my buddy Pebble, and this was like probably 5 years ago. I said, what about CrunchyJoints? Because that's just me. And we had a good laugh about it. I made it my username, and it has stuck.
I know with the ballet, we definitely want to get into a lot about that, because there is a little bit of a cross-pollination between DJing and dancing. What do your sports doctors have to say about all of your crunching joints? Is it good? Are you going to be fine?
No. I have chronic rotator cuff tendonitis in both of my shoulders. I have sciatica, sciatic nerve in your lower back. I've torn like more muscles than I care to list out. So everything's damaged. Everything hurts a bit. I also have not okay. I took 2 blood tests for rheumatoid arthritis. One came back positive, one came back negative. I don't know. All I know is my hands hurt all the time.
Yeah, half your body, half your body's not.
Yeah, pretty much. I'm just split down the middle. But yeah, unfortunately, I deal with a lot of chronic pain just on a day-to-day basis, and work doesn't help. But we power through, and we continue to do what we love, and we work around our challenges as best we can.
So the real question is, I mean, a lot of people seeing you DJ, do they know about the ballet?
I mean, I'll talk about it usually. If you get to know me for like 30, 45 minutes, it's gonna come up and you'll learn. But I don't advertise it. I don't feel any reason to. That chapter of my life is pretty closed. And I'm happy for it to just be lore at this point.
I was going to say, because, like, despite the fact that we were talking about dancing and talking about the DJing and just the scene in general, because, again, you could do all sorts of different things in here, and we have a lot of hidden talents that either A, we don't want to be brought up in VR, or B, we want to bring it up, but, like, we don't want to just be known as the one person who does ballet. Like, you have other traits that you can handle, and C, like, you definitely want to be able to use those traits in our community anyway, to be able to either better it or have it as a hobby or something going on with that. So I think a lot of the people that watch the program that are active dancers in here might want to know a little bit about a little bit of your lore of ballet and how it started for you and what kept you going with it.
All right, we're in for a long one. So,
let's go.
I started dancing when I was 5 years old. My mom worked at a local dance studio, and I had to go there after school and wait for her to be done with work. So one day I just said, "Hey, Mom, what if I take classes while I'm here?" And I started taking classes a couple times a week, and over time, over the years, it just kind of kept like increasing in frequency. I was taking it like more seriously. I'm still under 10 years old. Context. And then at about 11 years old, I turned to my mom and said, "Hey, I want to try and do this professionally. I want to try and make it as a professional ballet dancer." And so that began the process of going to what are called summer intensives, which are usually 2 to 8 week long programs, summer programs where you are dancing full time. And you're usually, the program provides housing and all these sorts of things. They provide meals, and you are there to learn. You are there to become a better dancer every day for like 8 hours for a whole week. And from that, I proceeded to year-round programs, which is kind of a similar deal, but it's a school year program. And I started going to school online so that I could do this, because these programs are very far away usually. I had to travel to Connecticut. I lived in Denver, and I lived in Tennessee as well, all just for ballet. And it's just such a long process of getting into that industry, and and you have to start when you're young, especially with the classical world. You have to start when you're young, because it is such a difficult and very particular art form. And I didn't end up making it. I got pre-pro and I quit because my body was kind of falling apart, and my mental health was really not good. And I said, "I think this is kind of destroying me. I'm going to take my cat and I'm going to leave." But yeah, I'm classically trained is the term. I classically trained of 16 years.
Did you find that it was just a matter of misunderstanding about where ballet could be headed in the future? Is it one of the reasons, or did you find that the program itself was too much tension and stress? Not only just for your body, but for your mind as well. Because, I mean, I'm not saying that a lot of us have seen, it's a very bad example, but was it Black Swan? They showcase a lot of very complicated parts of the ballet environment, whether or not it is the trainers or the coaches and the constant practicing that you have to do. But how would you even compare that to? Because obviously, when you grow up and you have a hobby and you want to continue on with it, you get to a point where either you're tired and you don't want to do it anymore, or maybe there was a moment in your life where you wanted to shift your focus somewhere else for a different passion.
So the main reason I quit ballet was twofold. One, my body and mental health was absolutely suffering doing this. I was pushing myself way too hard, and I could feel it draining me on a level that's not just like, oh, I'm tired. It's more like, oh, I have no motivation to make myself food anymore. So, and then the part two was the culture in ballet is awful. It is downright terrible. There is a huge culture of male ballet dancers getting a lot of privilege because there are fewer of them, whereas female ballet dancers are considered a dime a dozen, and so are less valuable assets because these companies, they're all like nonprofit organizations, but ultimately they make their money and they stay afloat through these large-scale performances. So you need to have the most valuable assets that you can, and that's always how you're treated, especially as you get closer and closer to being a professional. You're not valued for your artistic vision in the classical world. You're very much valued for, can you do this show really well? And I just got tired of it. I was really tired with the toxicity, and there's a whole lot of just really foul behavior in the higher levels of the ballet industry. If you're interested and want to learn more, I would go look up some of the scandals that have happened with the New York City Ballet or American Ballet Theater, and that gives a really, really definitive showcase of just how bad it gets. And I didn't want to be a part of it. I really didn't.
A lot of this has some really good benefits of understanding. It's kind of the reason why we're constantly trying to break this all down, is because while we have a lot of people that want to be interested in DJing or even dancing in our scene, as we've kind of alluded to earlier, that we have to take some time away for better health, for not only mental health, but physical health as well. Got to drink your water, they got to hydrate, and people are like, no, you don't hydrate. But there's that element that we rarely get to touch because of the fact of that celebrity status, as well as all the parties and the drinking. And of course, as we've alluded to, even with that article that came out this week, that people think that party like a rock star is a thing, but at the same time too, not everybody can do that at the same time. There's only one person on that article that said that they could do that. But also too, like, we tend to forget about some of those types of things. And I it's weird how you can reference all of this even going into entertainment alone. With the ballet, I think that the modern individual, the modern person, thinks of ballet. I know one of the things I told you, you kind of shook your head, was the Nutcracker. Again, the Nutcracker is such a complicated piece of ballet culture. There's other things that ballet, ballerinas and dancers can do on stage. But in real reality, that's the only thing. If you think ballet, that's what you're constantly thinking is Nutcracker. And Nutcracker is only during the Christmas time because it's that celebration of a Christmas story. But at the same time, too, especially from a musician like myself, I wanted to be classically trained and in brass. I was a brass performer, and I wanted to play in a symphony orchestra. But at the real reality of it is the culture of being able to get all dressed up, all zooted up, go to a symphony, go to a ballet, go to a performance, or even a theatrical performance. Let's look at the theater kids. Let's look at the drama kids, and they want to do musicals and do musical tours. That there's such a wider bubble of an aspect than just, oh, I'm doing a theatrical piece and I'm an actor. There's other things that you have to be as far as business and keeping your body limber enough to be able to perform with that sort of stuff. And also, too, the career aspect of it. And that's kind of where I was kind of pointing towards you as well, is in your mind and the research that you've done and the things that you have completed before, outside of just being a ballerina for a stage show for a particular performance or particular event, what are some other things that you can do as a professional dancer outside of that, if you are mentally and physically capable outside of regular practice?
Usually you're expected to be going to the gym really regularly. You have to do a lot of exercise and body maintenance outside of that time, so that takes up even more of your time. Remember, you're already doing this 40 hours a week. This is a full-time job. And now this full-time job wants you to go get a gym membership and work on essentially being a ballet dancer in your free time. And it's it's exhausting. A lot of people are really up for it. A lot of people are really motivated by that sort of thing. I personally wasn't. I had trouble with it, especially with my physical issues. It was hard for me to go out and like lift weights because I mean I did bench press one time and my shoulder dislocated. Like my body just doesn't like it. And it's it's a lot of just like supplemental things that all tie back in to this your rehearsals and your performances and your technique classes because you have to have a body strong enough, limber enough, and well taken care of in order to even begin to do excuse me, sorry, in order to even begin to do any of these more advanced things.
Do you find a lot of other people within that, even outside of doing ballerina stuff? I would assume, again, I don't know too much about this. That's the reason why I'm asking all these questions. Is like, let's just say you're done with doing ballet and you want to do more dance for your career. What are some other options? I think the thing modern society is just thinking, oh, I'm a dancer, I'm gonna go shake my ass in a music video, or I'm gonna do hip hop dancing for something else, or be a part of a dance troupe, or even break dance. I don't know. I mean, people learn how to do that as well. But where do you see other performers like that go in the future? And now that the future is here, what are other people trying to do to further their careers as far as a dancer?
That's actually a really great question. I am of the opinion that the classical ballet uh like industry is on a downward trend. It's lost a lot of the popularity it had in decades gone by, and it's kind of being held together by a lot of older donators and stuff like that. And so I feel that the future of performances in dance comes down to a lot of modern and contemporary dance companies. And they are more likely to have way healthier atmospheres because the people who run these companies are extremely artistic types and are less focused on the business oriented side of things. And they're mostly passion projects that barely break even. And shout out to people, Mama Kate Saint Amand at Siren Dance in New York, and also to the people over at Momix. If you need a couple names and are interested in learning more about this stuff, both of those places do absolutely incredible things, especially Momix. And I see that as being where a lot of these classically trained dancers are ending up nowadays, and a lot of it's very hard to get into the classical world if you're a college educated dancer, which is really backwards it sounds, but they prefer people who have gone through the industry's own education track. With like schools that are attached to companies and stuff like that, they really prefer that sort of thing. So these college educated dancers who are incredibly capable are ending up in the more modern and contemporary scene, which is denying a lot of these bigger ballet companies of really great talent just based on their own prejudices. And I've seen a very slow but steady growth in the modern and contemporary dance scenes, and it is really, really wonderful to see, and I hope it continues.
Even getting into VR and VRChat and obviously doing some research before you even came in here. I mean, you came in here and we're like, whoa, virtual reality, a 3D space, that's kind of cool. But at the same time, too, you talked about, you're talking with some more DJs, some more clubs and groups, and understanding your love for audio stuff and being able to shift your focus into something a little bit safer, a little bit less physically aggressive to your body.
Oh yeah.
Besides standing in one place or bopping, bopping up and down is always kind of a thing. But I can't help but feel the thought that you've also kind of looked into the dancing scene in here as well. So tell us a little bit about the research of the dancers that you've probably come across, as well as some of the dancing scene and some of the dancers that are part of our community.
Yeah, honestly, I am not super well educated on the dance scene here in VRChat, and I have friends who are involved in different aspects of it, and I learn about it through them. I've never taken the plunge to try dancing in VR myself, but I go to PSHQ's VIP room, which has absolutely wonderful dancers every time. They're always just incredible, and I don't know how they do what they do with trackers on. And of course, you know, there's lap dance clubs. There's also more of like the battle dancing scene, which is more like these ciphers and groups of people going, taking turns, doing battles and all that sort of stuff. And that's super sick. I got friends who came from that. Shout out Susa and TV. Y'all are awesome. But it's not something I'm super experienced in. I don't go to a lot of events that are more dance focused. I would like to. I just don't know where to find them.
A lot of this is interesting, and I wanted to be able to, on this program, be able to shed some light on all of the different aspects that we have in our community. Obviously, VRCDJLIVE, we talk a lot about the DJs, but even within the DJs too, we try to break down an idea of whether or not you want to be a hobby DJ or a professional DJ, or try to learn the different steps of how to do that. In modern broadcast radio, from what I'm trained in. Back in the day, it used to just be, oh, I have a resume, oh, I have a demo. I'm going to put that demo on a CD, and I'm going to put that in a huge vanilla folder and send that in through the post. And then the radio station's going to collect that and use that. Obviously, no one has the time for that anymore. It's all digital. Everything's kind of moving forward, and being able to understand the concepts of what we do in here virtually to the modern day age is very interesting, not only for me, but I think there's always a moment in time within all of the DJs in VRChat that they have thought about that. They've thought about, well, you know, oh, I could do that. I saw that guy over at EDC. I could do that. Oh, I could DJ those stages. You know, I could be a manager. I could manage these people, or I could do something. And that's a good first step. Because even for those people that are leaving high school, trying to go into college, they've had to have those moments. I'm not saying that those people are that young, but at the same time, they've had those moments where they're just like, if I were to think about a career path that I would want to choose, excuse me, got ahead of myself, sorry. Not dying, it's okay. They want to continue on with their career and an idea of how they want to work via college, and they go for more advanced schooling and training for that. Of course, in here, it's a little different because while VRChat is a free program and building worlds, which we'll get into very shortly too, and being able to use the skills that the average trained professional can do, there's a very weird disassociation based off of the things that we like to do, what we can do, compared to what average people are looking at what we're doing in here. So the reason for all of this, the reason for all of our discussions here is not only just the fact that like you can pick up your passions again in ballet or dancing or learning how to dance in here, but it's just a matter of being able to see performers in here that want to dance. Obviously, again, there's some instances where people are doing pole dancing, sexualized dancing, twerking, I suppose. Twerking is a version of it. I'm not saying everyone twerks, but you get good at something. But at the same time, too, you got some professional dancers that are taking it extremely seriously, and they want to be able to record themselves and showcase themselves without fear of judgment from the almighty internet people. You know, like the people are going to throw them under the bus, as we've kind of, again, alluded to this week, where you know, they think that we all do psychedelics, and I don't know about you, but I don't have a budget, man. I have no money for that sort of stuff. My psychedelics are friendship.
My psychedelics are cheap.
But like just understanding too, again, like understanding where these, and I'd love to get some more dancers on this program so that way we can kind of say, listen, you're in here. Obviously, you're working just as hard as I am, let alone even more, because you are doing tricks. You know, you got some pole dancers that have the full body system with the wireless. I've seen it, and I can't stop seeing it. And at the same time, too, my mind goes numb because I'm picturing them doing that. And I think I can do that. I have no upper body strength. I can't do that.
It's so hard. It's so hard.
So just even being able to understand that whole concept is super interesting to be able to say, listen, from someone who has some classic trained experience and how to do a dance, comparable to all of what you've learned compared to the modernization part of it. It's a very interesting connection that we have to find between even the DJs alone, because the performers in here are actively trying their best to present a skill that they have, or even learn a skill that they want to have, to be able to have further applications out in the real world. Same thing as DJs.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's VRChat's an incredible place for people to refine a skill that they want to learn, because when it comes to being a DJ, it's really hard to actually like play shows IRL. It's hard to break into that scene. I know, because I haven't been able to. I've played it like a couple. I played it like a Renegade. I played at some friends' houses, but I've never played for like an IRL like a page show or at like a club or something. And it's a space that's really hard to get into. But if you want to pick up that skill, it's always good to have other people around you who can give you feedback. And VRChat gives you that opportunity in a way that nothing else can. You are literally surrounded by people, and hopefully have some friends there as well who can, give you straight like, yeah, that was a great set, or you've done better. And you can take that feedback and really grow and improve. And if and when you do manage to break into the IRL scene, you are prepared and you have the security in knowing, I know what I'm doing already and I can do this.
Of course, there's a lot of people in our community that are just doing this as a hobby, and they want to come in and they just want to perform for their friends. I would assume at some point in time their skills will kind of check them somewhere and say, oh, well, I packed an instance. 80 people. It's difficult to tell a club promoter, an actual IRL club promoter, that you have had a full instance of people, and 80 people is still not enough, because that IRL club can definitely bring in more people. But 80 with a cap of 80, I'm hoping that's enough. I'm hoping that's enough to be able to show off that experience. But in your opinion, what kind of things should we be doing or focusing on to kind of showcase all the things that not only DJs have to do, but for dancers as well?
I think it's really important. I think worlds are really, really important to the presentation of an event, and a well-made world purpose-built for a particular style of event is always going to do better, because people come there, they feel immersed in the vibe. It's all about immersion. You hear that word a lot when we talk about VR, but it really is true. And the more that these event coordinators and world devs focus on that level of immersion, at least to me, I find my experience to be more complete.
It's interesting that you bring that up. I know when you were first applying to be on the show, you mentioned that you had been working with Googie Records, as we've been talking a lot about, as well as technical difficulties in understanding world creation, and let alone, and again, I can't deny it. I think a lot of people can't deny it either. Googie Records has just been having the most intense and creative examples of not only visuals in game, but kind of just like, not really psychedelics. I don't want to use that term anymore. I feel like
psychedelic inspired.
I feel like it's immersion. It's being immersed. It has really good immersion. And it helps when you do have psychedelics too. I mean, it's all part of the thing. But and obviously, kind of getting back on track with that is just like I feel like Googie Records, those worlds have just been so helpful to aid in a better example of the things that we do in here. Do you think that's something that we need to take a page from and keep motivated on as far as the visual aspect of it? I know that we're going to talk a little bit about your project coming up with the Bossa Nova Lounge, but talk to me a little bit about those visuals, because I think some worlds, they get built and the visuals are okay, but can we really continue to challenge the visuals in some of these instances?
Absolutely. And, Wake and Demogus and Kitsu of Googie Records have inspired me so much, and I have learned so much from all of them over there. And one of the big things I've learned and just in my own like experiences in VR and implementing shaders and things in my own worlds is there's kind of two types of effects and visuals that you see well, three in a world. First, most normal that you see is the video player that the DJ's visuals are coming through, whether they have a VJ or it's a loop that they have on their computer, or maybe they're even live VJing for themselves. Second is screen space shaders, and you see the places like contain a lot, which are things that directly impact how you see what's going on around you. So outline shaders and palette swaps and all that kind of stuff, where no matter where you look, it's always kind of this like, it's a uniform change that happens to everything you see. And now number three, which I think is the big one that I think is slept on a lot, is things that are happening in the world around you that aren't necessarily affecting you directly. And great example of this, Googie House and a lot of other Googie worlds have these incredible skybox shaders. And that's something that's happening around you, but you don't have to pay attention to it. It's a supplemental part of this experience that contributes in this way to make the whole part greater. And you get like particles floating around and a bunch of other crazy things happening. Googie Forest has like a whale that will like come up and over the entire map from one horizon to the other, and it's all these little things that you might not always notice it, but when you do, you're like, whoa, what is that? And I think the screen space shaders are awesome. I think the world shaders and effects and all that are awesome, but they're so much better when you put them together. And what Wake has really done has done a lot to really further that mindset, I think, just from my own observations. I know I've taken leagues of influence from it.
And one of the things that we don't think too much about, and now's the time to start thinking about it, of course, is just the fact, again, alone, that there are a lot of people that have gotten some interest in VRChat, as well as the DJ scene. Again, a lot of people have been very interested in the things that we do. And of course, again, the prime time to get a headset usually is the summertime when the kids are out of school, and then sometime during the holiday, of course. And when they do come in here, obviously, you have a couple of the worlds that don't have an extreme sensory space to it. And on top of it, too, we get to a point where it's just like, I feel like it's you're kind of pressuring your friends to be like, yeah, we're gonna go to this club. It's got some really cool visuals. I hope that you're gonna be good. You know, like seizure warning. You know, they got that thing. But like a lot of that is kind of stupid peer pressure junk. But like at the same time too, I feel like those maps, while they are a little extreme, they can be obviously you can.
It all depends on who is in control of that lighting panel.
Right,
it genuinely does. When you have someone who really knows what they're doing, it can be a much more gentle experience where they know how these different effects play off of each other. Because at Googie House, that controller has 65 buttons and like 2 separate fader systems that all control different parts of the world. So if you're just hitting buttons all over the place, yeah, you're going to overwhelm people. And it's also really important for map creators who use these things to have a toggle to just turn all of it off. It's really important because a lot of people, some people who play VR, do have photosensitivity issues with seizures and other stuff like that. So it's important to be inclusive with those sorts of things and make sure that everyone can experience the event that you're putting on, even if a part of it is missing.
I'll also say too that being able to communicate is a key factor in that too. I think our community alone, while we are inclusive and I guess we could say plur as well, depending on the location of the group that you're part of, but at the same time too, like it shouldn't be, it should never. I mean, there's always a funny haha. We've all been through it. I know for me, you know, I can't play Minecraft with my friends because my friends will literally throw me in a chasm. You know, and I'll lose all my stuff and I'll die. So there's always that funny haha first time moment, but you also have to be very, very particular for your friends if they actually have a sensory issue. You gotta be careful of that, but also communicate with them saying, okay, this is a heavy instance with all sorts of different effects and stuff. You can also tell the creator too. You can tell the person who's running the instance to be able to fix that problem as well. But where I'm trying to get to with this is, All of that is exciting for us. That's all very exciting for the people that are in here, and we can handle that. For DJs alone, you know, from time to time, if you perform IRL or in world, you have to see those visuals as well. You could turn it off. You know, the DJ could turn off those visuals so everybody else can have those experiences, but it aids in a DJ's success if you can power through, okay, the world's pitch black, or you know, there's lots of strobe lights. I know there was an event for me, there was one spotlight pointing at my face, and I'm like, thanks. You know, but you kind of have to deal with that sort of stuff, and I think DJs have to learn from that. But what I'm trying to get at with this is like, okay, we have a lot of new people coming into the scene, and we want them to be engaged within our community. How else can we be able to showcase all those amazing things, especially to those new users, without overwhelming them?
You know, I think a lot of places do a lot of really interesting promotional material and video highlights and trailers that really show off the talent in the space really well. And I think a lot of that supplemental material can introduce people to what we're doing and what's going on, so that they have a better idea of what they're getting into when they join an instance. And I think that stuff's really important. I feel like there's space for so much more of it, but it does take a lot of effort and a particular skill set I don't have. So it's often just communicating with your friends. It boils down to that, hey, this is what this is like. If you need to turn it off, or you feel like it's going to cause you discomfort, I can show you right where the button is to turn it off. And it all comes down to your friends got to care about you, man. And if they're introducing you to something that might potentially cause you discomfort, it's important that if you're that friend, you tell them and educate them and give them that heads up.
Where do you get about being a triple threat in this game, when it comes to not only doing good dancing, DJing, and world creating? Was there a point in time where you were just like, oh my gosh, I want to do this, I want to do this, I want to do this, oh, I want to be really good at this? Did that ever get to a point?
You know, I think I'm almost there. I think I'm almost about to get overwhelmed. But right now, I'm really focusing on my world creation and DJing, and just trying to focus on those two and balance that with my just general social time being in VR and being in events. And it gets hard. And I've definitely had some weeks where I'm like, oh, okay, I booked myself. I took too many sets. I said yes too many times. That's not okay. Or I'm like, oh shoot, I have deadline. I have to meet this deadline for this world because I'm running an event for it. Like the past 2 days, I spent like 6 hours in Unity just fiddling with audio sources because I have that event tomorrow. And so it really boils down to time management. You have to manage your time. You have to decide, okay, this is what I want to focus on and all of that. And I'm trying to cut back a little bit on as many DJ sets, because I was doing too many every week and it was starting to overwhelm me. But yeah, it really just depends, and what your interest is will change over time. You'll go back and forth between certain things based on what you're feeling like, and I think that's perfectly reasonable.
It's not meant to be a negative thing. I know you're shaking your head like, what? Look at this guy, he's trying to make fun of me. No. That's not what I'm meant to be.
No, I'm not. I just shake my head when I talk. It's just, especially in VR.
That's the fun. That's the interesting about, I would say the fun thing about it, because, you know, I don't know, being overwhelmed is not very fun. But the interesting part about what we do in our community is that when you first come in here as a user, you're kind of soaking up all that stuff. And for you to be able to DJ for literally 2 to 3 years in VR, and start to get to know a brand new, well, obviously you do audio, but I feel like you're learning a lot more about the crafting of being a DJ and understanding how it is to perform all of the time, getting all of the gigs. But at the same time too, every VRChat person has gone through, well, why would I spend money on someone to create an avatar for me? I can learn how to do it myself, and there's plenty of applications on YouTube that can show me that. I.e. also world creation, you know, like once you start making worlds, you're just sitting there going, how much more can I learn from this that I could create my own thing? Because if so-and-so can do it, then I can do it. It's very easy. Did you kind of stumble upon that too? I mean, obviously being friends with someone that has inspired you to not only perform, but also, you know, inspire you with these maps that have been so unique, you know, has that really it kind of hit you at a certain point where you were like, maybe I can do this?
Absolutely. It took me some time to really gain any sort of confidence, both with DJing and with world creation. But it was really everything I learned was taught to me by a friend or someone else. I really suck at following tutorial videos and like learning things through like videos and like reading about stuff. But if someone tells me something or shows it to me, I absorb it super well. So I just go around and I ask questions. I ask so many questions. I bother Mint like every day with some random new Unity question. And it's that's how I learned, and that's how I always say, like, there's so many people in this scene who are so willing to help and want to share that knowledge, because so many of us want to see more of this stuff and are so happy to educate people who are passionate about it, or even just dipping their toes in the water to see if they like it or not.
I was going to ask, and again, as you just said, a lot of people are interested in being a part of it. Is that something that you think that we should kind of do more with? I mean, as far as the DJ scene alone, it just seems like there's tons of avenues of different things you can do. And despite being capable of doing everything, you know, you're a master of none, as they always say. But at the same time, too, you know, you can have passions and a better understanding of how things are done. Where do you think people should even begin with that? Do you think it should just be avatar? Should it be world creation? Should it be DJing? Should it be dancing? Where do you think we need more help in our scene?
You know, first off, I'd like to say, if you're going to get into all of this stuff, you're going to ruin a little bit of the magic for yourself. You really are. I lost a lot of the magic when I started learning more in depth about how worlds are made and how all these crazy effects happen. But it just changes from being magical to just impressive. So, with that out of the way, I think that we have so many wonderful avatar world creators, but we always need more. We always need more people with new, fresh ideas to create something, because as big as the scene really feels sometimes, it's quite small, and we need more people who are really willing to experiment and do new things. And so my advice is, don't be afraid to try something new. Take what you learn from other people and through YouTube and all of this, and try something different. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. That's okay. You've learned something from it. You learned that doesn't work.
That's perfectly fine too, especially with the DJing side of it as well, because you know, and I really wish I could find a better timeline than just, oh, I'm gonna pick up a console and then start to DJ. However, we genuinely get those questions all the time of just being like, when is the most opportune time? How can I, you know, get into this sort of a thing? And the real reality of it is the time part, and that's really difficult when it comes to either entertaining or even the field of this as well. That while learning how to make these worlds, and maybe you can give your experience on it as well as we dive into the Bossa Nova Lounge. That I know that's something you're very passionate about. That we're going to be seeing that very soon. You know, what kind of a time commitment does it normally take? I know me saying this, I'm just going to be like, oh, well, let's just open this up by just kind of ruining dreams by telling them to tell everybody it takes a bajillion hours to do. But in real reality, this is something that I think a lot of people need to gauge, even with the DJing part, is that it's, yeah, you can hit a button and make the audio go on and zoom and, you know, whatever. But at the same time, too, it takes some time and patience and practice to receive said skill to make it go zoom.
Absolutely. And I think ultimately that's just up to how much do you want to put into it? How good do you want to get at this? Because the more skill that you want to have, the longer it's going to take. And oftentimes, especially with world creation, just because you're really good at something, not all of those tasks in world creation become faster as you get better at them. You develop a workflow, but you're still doing all these same tasks, and that streamlines it a little bit. But ultimately you're still tediously renaming 44 different audio sources this might just be a me problem, but you're tediously renaming 44 different audio sources so that you can tell which one is which when you go to check that the script knows they're all there. And it's tedious, and the more you want to do, the more ambitious your project is, the more time you're going to have to spend on it. I usually do the base foundation for my world in Unity. I will sit down, take whatever environment I'm using. Oftentimes I would use Sketchfab assets and stuff like that. I don't do a lot of modeling myself because I'm still learning, but it would usually take me 2 or 3, sometimes even 4 8-hour sessions after work, just busting out, just slamming caffeine and doing all this tedious stuff and building a workflow for this particular map and figuring out, how do I want to have things laid out? So ultimately, time taken, going to vary depending on what you want to do.
What do you think is the best way to get a hold of world creators to not only showcase what you do, but ask for help if you're not already a part of that community?
See, that's the hard part. Is it's kind of hard to find people who do world creation because a lot of people don't advertise it. Not a lot of people really want to do it for commission. So it can be hard to really find those people, but once you do find them, they are always more than willing to help you out. But just talk around. One thing I would do is just go into your little quick menu and check who made the world, and then keep an eye out for them. And maybe be like, hey, I saw that you made this world. I thought it was really cool, and I'm looking to learn more about Unity and stuff. Do you have anything that you could help me with, or any resources you could provide me? And that's a great way to really just start a conversation with someone. And a lot of people, myself included, I mean, I'm a pretty terrible teacher most of the time, but I'm always willing to try and help.
That's always super nice to see and hear, especially within our community, because I feel like most of the time, a lot of us gamers think that we're always being too intrusive. We're always just kind of being like, oh, they're not going to read my DM, or, oh, they're not going to get a hold of me, or this, that, the other thing. But, again, the worst thing that could possibly happen to you is you get no response. At least you tried.
You get no response, yeah.
Yeah, and then at the same time too, there will always be somebody out there that can help you as well. But you have to ask the questions though, and that's the thing too. Is I think a lot of people in here, we have to continue to check our pride, because there's moments in time where you're just like, you got to ask for help. And unless you're going to sit there and be stubborn and not ask for help, and then just be angry at yourself because you're stubborn, I mean, you have to take some time away to just kind of be, ask for that sort of help. Speaking of which, again, you have a couple of worlds that you have produced and you have put out into the VR space. But more importantly, let's hear a little bit about your project with the Bossa Nova Lounge that I think a lot of people should be taking some interest in.
Absolutely. So the Bossa Nova Lounge is just a very simple lounge world built and intended for just listening to music. It's not necessarily a DJ venue. There's DJ decks for if we're having a live show. But most of what that world is used for is me and a couple of friends going and sitting around and listening to music for 4 hours. Because that's just what I really like to do sometimes. And so I began talking with Mint, who was already in the process of developing a surround sound system. And basically what this system does is it's an OBS plugin that takes your audio and splits it into 5.1 surround, and you now can send highs, mids, and lows to your Unity audio sources. And you have different audio sources that output highs, mids, and lows. And past that, the opportunities are endless. So for my world, I have a set of speakers IRL. I have a surround sound system with a receiver and everything. I have some DCM speakers, and Mint modeled my actual speakers IRL, and we now have them in the lounge. And what I did was I took those separated audio sources And after listening to my own speakers pretty closely, I figured out where I should put them for each speaker. So I have one right over here in my space right now. It has 2 more medium-sized drivers and a small little tweeter on top. So in the world, now there's 3 audio sources attached to this one speaker, outputting mids and highs. Now we have another speaker over in the back of the room that has a really big subwoofer in it, and it has a mid and a high. So I have a low, a mid, and a high audio source on this speaker in particular. And I also have some tweeters, which just output highs. So that's kind of like the basics of what I'm doing with the Bossa Nova Lounge. And it's really just meant to be a warm, gentle, comfortable space for you to enjoy music and not worry about anything else.
Now, one of the things I think a lot of world creators might look into, obviously, when this becomes available, being able to implement it into our spaces now and being able to kind of reshape, because the visual thing has always been there. And I think a lot of the clubs, they provide some really good stuff at their venues with visualization. But we haven't truly been able to get a good grasp of where the sound is supposed to be generating from when we're in the instance. I think a lot of people believe that it should just be straight up 2D and just have it flat, and then in any space that you go to, you can hear it, or even in 3D, being able to be like, okay, if I leave one particular vicinity, then it'll be muffled a little bit, so it kind of simulates the fact that you're stepping outside. Or even in the case of that you have speakers in the front or in the sides of the DJ, that they're being generated from that. So my immediate question, I think a lot of people are going to want to know the answer to this, is how can we further take your surround sound experience and be able to implement it not only in VRChat clubs, but in a good way to benefit the listener? Because I think a lot of the consoles and unless you're on an active mixer that has panning, we don't have access to being able to just pan straight left and right. Or even generate those types of effects unless it's in post-production.
Absolutely. So usually with this system, everything's really handled in OBS. It's a custom-made plugin. It is actually currently available on GitHub, and it is completely open source and free. This whole project is intended to be open source and free for anyone to download and use and abuse in whatever way they want to, and get some really creative implementations. We don't want to gatekeep this behind a paywall. It has the potential to do a lot of really incredible things for the user experience at an event. Just look at Shelter and Dieselworks use a program called Arc, which is a 3D spatialization engine, which does all of this and calculates how the sound would sound in the space, and they set up their audio sources to go in line with the physical speakers in the space. And we're trying to take, okay, Arc is this really high-end, I think it's pretty expensive software. How do we make this more accessible? How do we make this so that anyone can use it to whatever lengths they decide to? And eventually the Unity packages will be available. They're not yet, but if you want to experience this, you can still go to the Bossa Nova Lounge, plug in your link after setting up everything in OBS, and you will get that experience. So it's just kind of a demo right now, but this has a lot of potential to really elevate the user experience. And it's not super flashy, it's not anything crazy, but it immerses you in a way that it doesn't take you out of it. A lot of times I'll notice like, oh wow, there's only one audio source in this world and it's right there. And that can throw me off. I like 2D audio in a lot of worlds. I think it works great for a lot of worlds because it gives that really uniform. You're just hearing the music as it is. But if you want to do 3D audio that really feels like it's coming from the space, this is going to be a great tool for anyone who wants to do that.
I'm really excited about it too, because I think despite all the visuals that we would see in a club, that's the next big thing that I think a lot of people are going to be focusing their attentions on are the sounds. Like, obviously, if you're going to go to a club and enjoy a DJ, you're going to want to hear it a specific way that you probably would make it as believable as if you were going to go to the club IRL to be able to experience that. And on top of it, too, I think it would be a really neat concept if people really took... there's a lot of people that in this space that think that the club space is exactly what the VR is implying, compared to the actual going to the clubs.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it would be a really neat concept to be able to take those IRL clubs that have a lot of success and be able to implement them into VR. That way you can first learn about the club experience in here and then actually physically go to the actual club. Kind of like if you go to an IHOP and you have an IHOP in here, then you'll know what it's like to go to an IHOP real life, except there's real food there. But at the same time, real music that you get to enjoy. And that's something we can't really feel with haptics. I think that's another big thing that could potentially somewhere down the road help out too, because there's a lot of moments, well, you know, it's not even just a matter of ingesting drugs or psychedelics or being drunk, but having the feeling of those subs, like, you know, pounding at your chest while you're in the middle of the club and having that feeling at the same time, that I think a lot of people that we don't really get too often with that. We're just coming up to the end here on the program of VRCDJ Live with CrunchyJoints. And of course, for those people that are in chat, again, you have just a couple more minutes to ask your important questions, lest you have to run into Crunchy at some point in time and ask those questions. But now that you kind of have more of a focus on making worlds, and again, you're being really popular with your DJ sets, what's the future of CrunchyJoints? Are we going to be seeing a lot more world creation? Or are we going to be seeing some more DJing somewhere down the line? What are the passions? What are your passions that you want to create even into 2025?
You know, I'm really starting to shift my focus more into world creation and the creation of experiences from that sort of world's first perspective. And that's part of why I started a little group that I have going called Project Gateway. And it's just a collaborative project between me and Mint. We host events when we feel like it, but the primary drive of it is to create. It's just to create interesting experiences, interesting tools for people to use. And that's really what I'm trying to divert my focus more to. I'm always going to be performing. I perform if someone asks me. If you hit me up, if I vibe with your club, if I like the place, sure, I'll play. But I don't seek out bookings much anymore. I don't really... I get enough that fills my schedule as it is, just by talking to people in World, or someone sends me a Discord DM because they saw me set.
Maybe it's somebody's birthday.
Yeah, I'll play a birthday. if you hit me up and are like, hey, I'd really like for you to play for my birthday, that's gonna be a 100% yes, because I am flattered.
There you go.
But I really am just trying to focus on the creative aspects of everything. I try and take more time and build my sets very intentionally. I didn't used to do that. I used to freestyle everything. But yeah, I think the future really looks like more, just maybe a little different.
And being able to understand those skills as using as a triple threat really does help out with that cause too, because let's just say somewhere down the line, you know what it's like to DJ. And then let's just say you know how to make worlds. Then the next thing down the line is you owning a club and you managing a club and understanding what you need to manage a club, comparable to how much it takes to DJ and, you know, getting the right DJ to perform, because or like understanding concepts of architecture and getting the right things to a club. So having all those skills are super helpful, especially when you're building it in VR. Just before we're going to get on out of here, obviously one of my favorite segments of the show is towards the end, where we do a little bit of a rapid fire to kind of get your answers on some of the hot topics, some of the things.
All right.
Gotta get going here. Gotta shift in your chair a little bit, but
I gotta get out of my gamer posture.
Per usual, as obviously we've heard on the show these past 2 hours, you have lots of different traits, lots of different skills with all the different things in here. But I think more importantly, is a matter of finding your right path as a DJ. So what is a word of advice that you can give, not even just for world creation, but for potential future DJs?
Don't let it get in your head. Whatever people are saying, don't let it get in your head. Focus on yourself. Keep working hard. Don't stop.
Pretty straightforward with that one, yeah. As far as all the different DJs that you've got to experience and all the people that you've got to see, what are the top 3 DJs that you think that we should kind of keep an eye out for in VR?
TV Head, that MP4 is their username. Absolutely sick DJ, plays breakcore and Jersey Club, Daria Core, crazy shit. I have not run into a lot of DJs who do what he does, like he does. Who else? That was the first one off the top of my head. Try to think of people that not everyone would know, because obviously, like, Sushi Ferret's incredible. Run Star Party. Sushi's awesome. One of my favorite DJs, I'd say. Who else? Oh, I'm thinking through my list in my head. This isn't very rapid fire.
Yeah, I was gonna say you're losing everybody with your rapid fire
here. Grim, SR47, great DJ, crazy music taste. I probably can't find a third, but you definitely look for those two. TV Head if you really like breakcore and stuff adjacent to that. Grim if you like anything industrial.
Now, obviously, we were just talking about Bossa Nova Lounge and the things, this jazz set you got coming up tomorrow. Where are some other places we can find you?
Check the timeline. I just got booked for a couple events this morning. I'm playing at Displace on the 18th. That's my next confirmed set. That there should be a poster coming out for that shortly. That's Mince Club. I'll be playing industrial jungle and drum and bass.
Wonderful. And of course, where can we find you on the internet?
CrunchyJoints VR on Blue Sky and YouTube. That's the only two places I'm really active, and I'm sure you can find my Discord if you just pop by Googie Records.
I was gonna say, do you post a lot of your posters on there? You post some video stuff on your socials as well?
Yeah, I post. Usually my Blue Sky is just kind of stream of consciousness. I just kind of talk to it when I feel like it and interact with people when I feel like it. YouTube is where I post my mixes. And if you miss something or like, hey, I heard about this DJ, I want to check them out. Check out my YouTube. Absolutely. It's I've got some banger sets on there, I'd say.
Well, I'll tell you, CrunchyJoints, man, it was such a great time to have you here on the show to not only just be able to kind of talk to you about what you think about the DJ scene, as well as all of the fun things that you've been able to accomplish here, but also the fun projects that we get to see in the future concerning like world development. And I think a lot of us are very excited and they can't wait to see even more stuff that you've got cooking between the DJing and the world creation. So we'd love to have you back here. At some point in time to even ramp up those two things.
I would love to be back sometime.
Great. And again, thank you so much for coming on the show. And that's going to do it for us here on VRCDJ Live. Of course, we've got all of your highlights and your replays up on YouTube at the same name, at VRCDJ Live. Just a couple of nice little words for you. We are kind of in the process of putting together our June schedule for all of the different DJs that we're going to have as far as guests are concerned. But we also are going to be coming up with some other fun things to do in June and July coming forward. I can't believe we're already in the summertime. Honestly, can't believe it. But we've got lots of festivals on the way and that we're going to be a part of coming up in the summertime that we can't wait to announce. And we're going to be doing a lot more remote shows too. So you'll have not only a way for you to engage with the program, but also a way to be able to see it live instead of it. Well, obviously it's live, but I mean, more live that you actually get to be in VRChat to experience the live part of the live. Speaking of which, next week on Thursday, and the time kind of eludes me right now, I can't remember it, but we're going to be joined by the members of Gathering VR, and we're going to be talking a lot about the Gathering coming up and what's going on with that and all of their minis that they've got kind of in the past couple of months, as well as their really large show coming up soon, TM. And of course, following it towards the end of the month, we're going to have Murdochs join us as well, which again, a very fascinating talk when we have him on the program. Of course, all this information you can find on Twitch in the bio section if you want to submit a DJ submission or club submission or any way you want to be a part of our program. Obviously, we would love to have you here. So for our guest CrunchyJoints and the VRC DJ Live staff, I'm Rob Roman. Thank you so much for coming by and hanging out with us today, and we will see you guys next time.